Up with your stuff? Good. Okay, so I'm gonna call to order the planning commission working meeting, 14 October 2025, working meeting in Lancaster Township. We normally don't say the Pledge of Allegiance at our working meeting, so I think we're gonna skip line item number 2. That's for the main meetings. Just on the agenda item, skip over. Next item on the agenda is the public comment on agenda items. Does anybody have anything you want to talk about as far as what we plan to cover tonight?
Of course I do.
Okay, Tom.
I'll stand. My name's Tom Beach, and I live at 661 Scotland Road here in Harlem. And I'm up here to speak about the curative amendment, but explain the curative amendment and some of the things I'm concerned about. I'd like to start by telling a little story about my compass. I have a compass that doesn't always point to the north. And some say, well, that's not a good thing. But my compass that doesn't point to the north, when it's not pointing north, it makes me do something. It makes me stop. It makes me look. It makes me listen. It makes me think. What is the right thing to do? I call this my moral compass. Everybody should have a moral compass. I hope you guys do. On the curative amendment, there's so many things on the curative amendment that are issued that it's way beyond 5-minute allotment to discuss. So I'm going to focus in just tonight, for the purpose of this, on number 10, which is the 40-foot front yard setback for townhouse unit is not a reasonable restriction. What is a reasonable restriction? Who defines it? Does the petitioner define what a reasonable restriction is? Or does the township's community standards define what a reasonable restriction is? Let me give you a couple examples. I'm on Little Creek Road, and I have a choice. I'm going to Portersville. I can get on I-79, and I can drive 70 miles an hour. And clear day, warm weather, light traffic, is that reasonable? Everybody's going to say, yeah, you're driving the speed limit. The community standard. So there's no problem. Well, I'm on Little Creek Road. I decide, nah, I'm not going to go 79. I want to drive down to the light at Perry Highway, and I want to turn north. Now I'm going to drive 70 miles an hour up Perry Highway. Is that reasonable? No. Is that the community standard? No. Because of course the speed limits, which are the community standard, say 45, 50, 45, 55, all the way up to 40. Nowhere does it say 70. But yet, 19 and Perry Highway parallel each other. So why is it reasonable there, but not in Lancaster Township? Because we have community standard that says that that's not reasonable. So we have somebody puts in a petition that says, I want to go 70 miles an hour between Puff Niggles and Log Cabin Inn, but it's 55. Well, do you think the police are going to let him drive 70 up there? No. They'll stop him and say, that's not the community standard. But he'll say, well, I don't like that. I don't want that to be 55. I want it to be 70. So I'm going to submit to the township to make it 70 all the way up so that I can drive 70 here. And the guy up the road, mile the road says now, we can drive 70? I want to drive 70 where I'm at, a mile up the road. So he's going to put in, so the moral of the story is, we get 125 new houses in there because we changed the standard. Somebody standing waiting in the wings, a mile up the road, wants to put in another 250 houses because the community standards have changed. You can't put those in under the current community standards. Those community standards are here to protect the community, not to enhance or be changed at the whim of a developer. So I'm looking at this and saying, if I can't get what I want by talking the policeman out of letting me drive 70 in a 55 zone, I'm gonna go to the township and change the speed limit to 70 for the whole township. And that way I get what I want. Even though I was told, no, I can't have that in the first place. So now we're trying to pass something into a township where it's already been rejected, and we know that it's not community standards and it's not right. So be sure you have your compass, your moral compass. Stop and think and do what's right for the community. I thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Appreciate your analogy there. I get what you're saying. I think for the curative amendment, at least from my standpoint, what they were asking for was very similar to what other townships are using. And if ours is more restrictive, then that leaves us open for them challenging that in court. And what's the community standard? Well, if you look at it, it's it's arbitrary. It's what's the right distance? 40, 25, 10. I don't know. But I'm just saying that, in your analogy, if the speed limit was posted as 10 miles an hour on 19, people could come and say it should be 45 because that's what it is in Jackson and that's what it is in Muddy Creek.
Yeah, but if Cranberry Township and Jackson Township decide they want to jump off the bridge, are we going to jump off the bridge too?
No, we shouldn't.
Well, there you go. Just because they have it doesn't mean that we should have it.
It does set a precedent, that's all I'm saying. So, I appreciate your comments, okay? I don't want to get into a discussion.
And do you have any idea what impact that curative amendment would make with 2 additional developments in here? That's 350, 400 plus new deliveries for the post office. Dealing off the post office, do they have the room for another carrier, for another vehicle? They're gonna have to expand? Are they gonna have to expand? 300 plus deliveries is the entire delivery route. They're gonna have to hire more people. These are unintended consequences that you might not be thinking about when you're making these decisions. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments, Tom. I do. Anybody else? Okay. Next order of business is old business review of subdivision and zoning ordinances, but I would like to flip that around and move down to the planning commission administrative items. This is kind of a new agenda item that I asked Tom to include at our working agenda, our working workshop meetings. We won't have time for that during the public main meetings, but I've got a number of things that I just want to discuss, and it pertains more to how we as a planning commission operate. We need four people to have a vote. The last meeting we had 4 people, although we have a lot more on our commission. I think it just adds a lot more credibility, a lot more input, and a lot more consideration if we have a full quorum. So just going to ask everybody, keep an eye on your calendars, do your best to try and attend the main meetings, especially if we have votes on big township items, because when there's only 4 of us, it just does not lend the credibility as if our full group is here to vote. And that being said, it kind of dovetails on what the public comment was. We need to make informed decisions. And as a group, I think we need to do better understanding what all the ramifications are of these proposed changes, these proposed plans, anything that's before us. I don't know how we do that. I'm looking for some input from everybody. I know how we did when I worked for a big engineering firm. We would sit down and go through pros and cons and benefits and disbenefits, lay everything out in almost a facilitated discussion on the whiteboard or on the screen, and then we would all make an informed decision on what we were going to do. I just feel like a lot of times I'm seeing when I was not the chairman and now as the chairman, we're just everybody's just kind of throwing their opinion into the hat. And I don't know that we're having a really good at making really good informed decisions on some of these things. Not that we've got anything wrong in the past, but I think we could do better. So I'm looking for some input from others. Some ideas I had is, each member brings to the meeting a written position. Because what happens a lot of times, at least again where I used to work, was there was a lot of bias. If the smart guy in the room came in and said, we need to do X, then half the people that weren't prepared or didn't really understand what we were talking about would just go along with that guy and go along with whatever he said. And we started forcing everybody to come in with their own position and explain why, it was a good idea or a bad idea, or if there were things in compliance or out of compliance. And then when we shared those as a group, we had a common understanding of everything, a comprehensive understanding, and not just our own microcosm understanding of what we saw and what we looked at. And I don't know how we do that in a forum like this, the amount of time that we all have to spend on it. But if we can come up with a better way to do that, I'd like to hear it. I think if nothing else, just a facilitated discussion is going to help us. Again, talking about pros, cons, benefits, consequences. The interesting thing, when we would have these, we could have a list of 10 things that were benefits and one that was a consequence, and that one item would overrule all the benefits. We wouldn't do it. And if you showed somebody on paper that say, look at all the, look, it's 10-1, how could you have made that contrary decision? But that one thing overrode and prevented us from doing everything else. And if that's the case in some of these meetings and decisions we're making, I think we should be at that point. So I'm not comfortable with the way we as a group are making decisions. I think we can do better. We may end up with the same outcome at the end if we didn't spend more time. But I'd just like to hear other people's ideas on that. Are we in line with where we should be, or can we improve?
Well, are you referring to specifically like these working sessions where we're going to be talking about a specific section of the PRD today, or are you talking about something more like the curative amendment?
Well, I don't want to go specifically to curative amendment, but it is more of our main function of approving plans, approving curative amendments, approving just things that come before us.
Okay.
I think that's when our decisions matter. That's when we're voting, we're passing things to the supervisors. If we have opposing views, we should give the supervisors both. Here's why we decided to do it, and here were people that weren't comfortable with that. And here's why. They should have the whole story in front of them.
Because I think these working sessions are a good place to have, these open dialogues, especially if we know what the content's going to be that we're going to be looking at. And we have information available ahead of time for those specific sections, like examples. But I know sometimes we just work quickly through them. But I think the curative amendment, at least since many of us joined, has been the first time we've had something where we needed to make a collective decision. But I think as we get some of these plans in, I think it makes sense as long as we're all reviewing that at time.
Well, that's where we're at. But again, you review it, Bob reviews it, Dale and I review. We all see our own separate things. We don't have that collective view. And if we share that, if we come all prepared saying, I think this is a great idea because A, B, and C, and someone else says, I think it's a bad idea because of number 1, 2, and 3 reasons to come through. We all have that collectively, and then we can, as a group, decide those outweigh, the benefits outweigh the disbenefits, or, you know what I'm saying? We have to be able to share that, our knowledge, a little bit better than what we're doing. I believe. And I'm just trying to get either validation of that or.
Yeah. So I'd like to add the working, the working sessions. I do like the ad hoc approach, where you're taking an issue, you're kind of dissecting it on the go. We can't really review every little detail. If Bob or you review a document that we're using as a primer for that, we're gonna be going through your guidance and your comments, and we're kind of following that kind of flow, which is good. I'm learning a lot about the Uniform Municipal Code, so that whole process of real development is relatively new to me, even though I'm an engineer. But I think we probably can improve our minutes. And if the thing about improving our minutes of what we talk about is it puts us on a responsible platform. I know Mike records this every week, but when you put something in the minutes, you're putting your position out there, I think. And not that you have to make a position on everything. But I think on major decisions, I think we should go through a individual, point by point, like what's your pros and cons, and so that we see the whole group think on those key issues. I don't know what concerns that, but the curative amendment obviously is a very key decision because it does have influence on other things. So, but I like the working session. I'm learning a lot. I'm listening. There's a lot of intelligence on this board from real estate and development and from engineering. Sometimes I don't understand all the legal ramifications because there's codes. I mean, we have to follow a code where we are a advisory group for the supervisors and all that stuff. So yeah, I think we can do better, but in all my other experience, townships create more detailed notes from their meetings. And so that's put back into the public, so people understand what we're going through, the salvo, the PRD, the curative amendment, any development plan that comes up. And so then that communication gets fostered in a better community. So I don't know if that helped, but.
Well, I think for things like plan reviews, curative amendment, any of those kinds of issues, I am a huge advocate of having everyone review ahead of time and bring back their comments. Ideally, written, scribbled, something. I'm on another committee that it's been invaluable to do that because I'll look at something one way and someone else will look at it a different way, and it's like, well, I never thought of it that way because I'm 60-some years old and you're 30 years old. That matters. So having everyone come in and bring their own information to the table and talking about it together is useful. It's very useful.
Facilitate the discussion, right? And I'll facilitate that. But I do think we need to do that and get into a little more detail before we decide to work on something.
Well, and I think that, to reiterate what you were saying, I think it's useful in these work session meetings to be a little bit more informal, relaxed about that process. But when we get to the final, here's the saldo we're putting out, here's the zoning ordinance we're putting out, I think we should actually go through that formal process again. Everyone should take a final review and say, I still don't like X, Y, and Z. I like X, Y, and Z. And the final, before we vote to send this off, here's what we come up with. Right now, we're still at that draft editing stage, which I think we don't want to get to that level of detail yet.
Yeah, maybe we could just establish a final review of all major, motions that we're approving that are being put up to the supervisor. I mean, that create a formal process around it and have everybody present their case. You may not have any comments on something. Maybe they're so easy that it's like, well, or it's not complex. You don't have to get into depth, and some people may not want to advocate their position, and they just want to be silent, but at least we're going to a final review. I don't know if that's the right term for it.
Yeah, it would be before.
But it's that last checks, and then the public will have a chance to review in their second comment period for each meeting. They can have they can give us the last word.
Comes down to just better decision making at our level. Tom, do you see anything like that your other townships when you're involved? I mean, they do pretty much what we do now, or they have anything more formal?
And it's tough because of the role that you're in. So your role is to review a plan as it relates to your ordinances. It could be a really ugly plan, but if it meets with your ordinances and checks all the boxes, you need to make a recommendation. And we try to look at those things and say, when we write our review letters, we go through the ordinance basically line by line and say this does comply, this doesn't comply, so make that a little bit easier for you to do that. But at the same token, there's things that we see that maybe don't make sense, so then we don't make that as a recommendation, it's something to look out for. Like when we talked about the log cabin and their parking, I mean, to me, that's a safety issue. It doesn't fall in the ordinance because it's grandfathered in, and PennDOT may say here they do it, but it's outside, but it's something that we felt was important for them to realize that the potential for an issue that's there that can be corrected during the stage if they wish to correct it. So, and I think it would be wise, I guess, what we see most of the time is, you know, somebody has a review letter, they review the review letter to see what's there, and then you look at the plan from a practicality standpoint. And that's where your input is, because everybody's gonna look at it differently. You know, what do you like and what don't you like in the plan? Throw it out to a developer, especially during the preliminary plan, and say, yeah, this meets with our ordinance, but can you consider doing this, this, or that? And that's really where we'd like to have some more input. And it could be stuff that you're just throwing at the wall that may or may not work, but it's, to me, it opens the dialogue for them to consider something. So, but I think the process is just maybe a little bit more engaging, you know, sort of look at this as the next development, your next door neighbor. You know, you may not like it, so the question is, what can you do? But again, you gotta review it. This is the laws of the book that you have to follow, so if it meets the setbacks, it meets everything else, you know, then sees everything else, then it's something to be considered.
Yeah, and that was my example, where we may find 10 things we like about it, but it doesn't meet the ordinance, so we can't approve it, right?
Correct.
And we can tell the developer that, hey, look, we really like your plan, and, you know, your setbacks are 2 feet off.
Right.
And, you know, he can change them and come back for a curative amendment, whatever he wants to try. But, you know, especially if we like the plan, right? Maybe he's got some better idea than we have on our books right now. More innovative.
I mean, it's nice when they come on a concept plan to sort of say, here's something, to get input, because then they know what your trigger points are, what your issues are. And then from there, they can cater their plan to say, okay, these are gonna be our hurdles, what can we do to accommodate these hurdles? And ideally, it would be nice to sort of push people into that direction, and maybe we do more concept plans to sort of get that dialogue flowing.
Well, I think you initiate a lot of that, you know, because you get the concept plans, and you as the engineer, you know, add comments on that, that's very helpful. I think the next stage would, you know, our review of that,
Right.
and adding that to that dialogue. And some things may not be written, like you said, written into the code, it's creative.
Right, or as you find out, currently there's holes in the ordinance that would allow people to do things that we don't want them to do, but we don't have the ordinance to back it, so the curative amendment fixes some of that. So, you know, those are the other issues as you look at what could happen in the zone, and we don't want that to happen, so let's tighten the restrictions and have a little more control over those items. I think you're doing that with the ordinance changes that you're looking at, is to say, hey, we want to protect the township more, so let's go through this and tighten this area and make it more appealing to the township. Because the last thing we want is an ordinance that says you can build homes, it doesn't say how many or, you know, anything like that. So we want to have the control that you're willing to accept.
Well, I think that's part of the tricky part of what we're going through right now is the process of trying to change these ordinances. When there are things that come before us that are under the current ordinance, we have to look at them under the current ordinance, even though we're in the process of changing because we don't like that ordinance, but that is where the ordinance is currently, and we have to abide by that. Where the curative amendment is right in the middle, where that allows us to change the ordinance to kind of what we recommend. So there's like 3 different things that are going on at the same time, and sometimes it's just, we gotta make sure, okay, this is a hack around right now, this follows the ordinances. Do we approve it based on that? It follows all the ordinances. 10 things that are good, it's all in line, we don't have a choice whether to follow that or approve it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas we realized later on, okay, we did not like that at all. We did not like what happened there. We need to make sure this ordinance gets changed so that doesn't happen again. And then there's the middle, like I said, where we have an ordinance that doesn't make sense for some reason, right? That someone has to bring before us and we have to decide, hey, all right, put our hats back on. We're now doing both jumps. We're deciding if we're going to approve this, but we're also making sure that the ordinance that we cure is gonna be something we wanna keep in the future, because it's what it's gonna be, so. There's a lot going on, there's a lot going on.
And I think working on the saldo and the PRD, buffers, and those are all really critical right now, because those are gonna form the basis for the future. They're gonna become our new ordinance.
Yes, that's what the township's gonna get, is based on
And,
that.
and that's what the debate is helping. So we're in a very complex stage. We went to that other township and they took a year of going through the motions.
That was just the saldo too.
That was just the saldo.
On the PRD.
I think we're making a lot of progress, but
Okay, an interesting time, I'd like to move on, I think everybody had a say on that. So, for those of you who weren't here at the last meeting, Julie provided a concept plan, Nussbaum property. It's huge, it's scary, and they only have one entrance for this big complex plan. They want to build on really steep slopes, and I don't know how any of that's going to happen, but that's just like phase one of some bigger master plan that they're probably working on or thinking about or talking to the neighbors about. I mean, I don't know. So we got to get this right. We got to get it done before everybody else starts showing up, because I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this area. And, you know, sewage goes up, Scholars Run, it just goes wide open. If that happens, we really need to be prepared. So, I think we're in pretty good shape with.
So are we gonna talk about that Nussbaumer letter a little bit? I'd like to, a very little bit.
It's on my list here of things, but what I'm not sure about is that something that has to go to the official meeting, or are we allowed to, we're not voting on it, so I guess we can talk about it now.
They offered it solely as comments as you're going through your ordinance changes to consider. So to me, it's their comments about what you should do. Everybody has comments, and you can ignore those comments. In my opinion, what they gave you a little bit more meat and maybe considering some things that maybe you weren't considering before. So they make things more restricted for them, but it's food for thought. So however you want to deal with that.
So, well, we'll get to that a little bit, okay? A couple other things I'll talk about. When I read this, I thought, geez, isn't that nice? The developers giving us suggestions on how we can write our PRD better to help them, right?
I thought only Brett did that.
What's that?
I thought only Bob did that.
Yeah, the chicken in the hen house was the fox in the hen house was a little bit of what I thought there. So my upcoming meetings, tonight's our working meeting. The 15th is a budget meeting. I don't plan to go to that. I'm not sure anybody here has any business there. The October 20th supervisors meeting, that's next Monday. I believe they are going to talk about the curative amendment that we voted on. Is that part of the public meeting? Is the 20th a public meeting for that?
It is the hearing.
It's the hearing?
It'll be part of that meeting.
Okay. Does this group, do you recommend we attend? Support the supervisors, don't attend, and just leave them autonomous? I'm never really sure where our role is in that. We recommended they approve it, but.
I mean, that's the planning commission's official rule is a recommendation to approve. That's entered in, or going to be entered into the hearing. Other than that, certainly you can go to express your opinions. It's up to you. But from the planning commission hat, it's the board's comments that are entered in. So that's the only thing that's entered in from that perspective. But as a citizen, you can certainly go and, support it or not support it, or give comments or, comments about what you think would be better with it, or higher density, lower density, stuff like that.
No, just make everybody aware, it's the public hearing for the curative amendment for the Wrigley, that's going to impact the Wrigley property. So I want everybody to be aware of that. Our next meeting's October 28th. That's last Tuesday of the month. That's our regular meeting. As of right now, we don't have anything before us that could change.
We did not receive any additional comments from Log Cabin, which I expected to receive. We probably don't have those in another week, and I wouldn't expect them to be on the agenda. So they'll probably be tabled and moved on. We'll get a time extension from it. So think that was the only other thing that was really on your agenda, so.
Okay, so if the meeting's short, I hope to have, to work on our salvo and PRD and just keep that moving if we have time. So that would be at the end of that meeting. And then just looking ahead, November 11th will be our next planning workshop meeting. November 25th is our regular planning commission meeting. That's 2 days before Thanksgiving. As of right now, not an impact schedule for me, but if anybody knows they're not going to be around, and we're not going to have a quorum, then they'll probably know about that in advance. So if you know you're not going to be around the week of Thanksgiving, please send a note to Tom. He can reply to his emails, and we'll kind of just try to track who won't be there. We have a little bit of time for that, but we should know in advance. We discussed having a tour of the planning commission tour of the 600 Perry Highway property. Is there enough interest for me to set that up? We don't have a whole lot of involvement in that. The township kind of autonomy us to do that. The planning commission has not been involved. But if we're asked to endorse things or just understand what we're doing, we thought it would be a good idea. So, is there interest? I'll have a meeting set up.
I'd like to see a property. I'd like to see a place like that.
Now, are you looking at a meeting during the day, evening, what?
I don't know. My preference would be a Saturday or something like that, or an evening, probably with it getting,
Evenings are gonna be tough.
with it getting dark out, it may have to be on a Saturday or something. And again, it's the owners, it's gonna be their.
What do you think it's about, an hour long, longer?
I'm guessing half an hour, but I guess.
So if it's on a Saturday, it's not gonna take up your whole, okay.
All right, I'll talk to Larry, see if we can set something up and send a note out.
And then for your next meeting, at the last meeting, we talked about a letter of support for the grant application that the township's doing. And again, that's basically per the ordinance, the comprehensive plan. It really doesn't have anything to do with the specifics of what's going on, how many buildings, how big or small. It's just the use and how it complies, which is a standard planning type letter that the planning commission would do to support any development that's required either through certain permits that are applied for or other means. So that will be something that's again on your agenda to consider.
Okay, so it's kind of a weird thing there. So it's for capital improvements in the township. Is that the right way to put that? The grant?
The grant is, it can be, this particular grant covers anything. You could buy a truck with this grant. Whatever you want is basically to improve something in the township. So in this case, it would be for, buildings and grounds improvements for that site to make improvements to accommodate buildings or other infrastructure in the site itself.
Okay, that's how generic that endorsement letter is. It's
It
just,
is, from your perspective, all you look at is that use allowed in that property, which is mixed use and it's a municipal use, so it's permitted by the ordinance. In the comprehensive plan, it indicated that there was the potential for improvements in a new township facility. So that's also mentioned in the comprehensive plan as something to be considered. So essentially all you're doing is writing a letter saying that those two exist. It's not, you're supporting it from, we want to see a Taj Mahal or we want to see, 14 buildings go on that site. You're not looking at the detail of what's going in. It's the use, what the use is.
Tom, you have, in the salutation, you have all caps, municipal community center project.
That's the title of the grant application.
That is the title of the grant application. Okay. And is that our terminology or is that
Yes.
the state's?
No, that was something the township.
Is that anything associated with the park and
It's
anything
strictly to
community
that
does?
property.
What's that?
It's strictly to that property.
This
So
is
it
600.
cannot be used elsewhere. You can't do improvements to this building or something like that if you got grant award. It's strictly to that particular property.
Okay, so we're just saying it's a grant application. fits into the groundwork.
That's it.
That
Unfortunately,
blocks. We have nothing that's 1-4, so it doesn't block.
like, pretty much any developer now that does, an earth disturbance permit has to submit a letter, prefab letter to the township saying, does this plan meet the zoning requirements? Does it meet, and does the township have a zoning ordinance? Does the township have a comprehensive plan? And it's basically check marks that the township has to fill out for anything anybody wants to do in a development inside of the township. So it's the first step before you even see a plan, that you even know if it's 2 houses or 200 houses of what's going on. And but it's generic in the fact that, they'll comply with the stormwater management ordinance. You have a zoning ordinance, and they'll need to comply with that zoning ordinance and stuff like that. So that's all you're looking at. It's not, looking at that, say, oh yeah, we approve this 400 unit subdivision. Is it allowed in the areas that it's being proposed? So it's kind of a weird,
So the letter's not an endorsement of the actual usage of the funds, just saying those funds can be used for that usage.
correct.
Okay.
So if somebody wanted to say if it was for an industrial site at that location by the township, you wouldn't be able to write the letter because it's not allowed in that district.
Is the application live now? Is it,
It's in the works of being prepared.
so it's not, the application itself hasn't been finished yet?
Okay, next item, again, we got 2 more, but this one's short. Google Groups, I proposed us trying to use that as our platform. I'm having trouble because I've sent multiple requests out to people and I don't get anything back, so I'm assuming you're not getting the requests. Only half of us are actually in there. I don't know what's wrong with it, it's not working, and then my laptop had a motherboard problem and they couldn't replace the motherboard, so I had to get a new laptop. I saved all my files, but it's just not the same.
So what you're sending out, is it in our regular email?
It will come via email, the invitation.
Okay, I've never.
Get the Google Group down.
No.
You've never got it, but you show up as accepted, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna set up a whole new group and then resend the invitations back out, okay? So look for that next week, but it'll be maybe from the Township PC, Lancaster Township Planning Commission. That's kind of what I'm trying to say with this. But anyhow, look for something like that. Don't think it's because it should go to spam. I don't know. Mike.
Generally, from my experience, Google Groups works. The only problem is you'll send out the invitation. If they do not have a Gmail account, they probably won't be able to participate.
Okay. So that's what it is.
It
Either
definitely
have to
has to
set
have
up
a
a Gmail account, or you're out of luck.
Thank you, Mike. That's what's happening.
I have a Gmail.
Yeah, about half of us have other, Zoom internet or, something else.
So
So
you should get an email. He accepted it.
I did get, I got the email, but I haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, you can't, unless you have a Gmail.
Okay. No, I do remember getting that and accepted, but I haven't seen nothing else.
nothing else happened, right? Although that should have got you into the group, but I don't have, the group's pretty generic right now because nothing set up. So,
Okay.
if we're gonna use
And then
that,
I'm not the most tech savvy guy.
we're gonna use that, we'll all need to have a Gmail account. Does anybody object to setting one up, even if it's just for the township business?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've never invited you.
Okay.
The other option, we could do a share file and
Sure.
everybody have access to upload them now.
What platform? On Microsoft, what?
It would just be a share file link, similar to what you would receive like last month from us from all the agenda items. It could be a folder, or we could put separate folders in there that you'd be able to obviously view anything or upload anything or make any changes to it.
Well, the reason I'm trying to push to a platform is because if we set it up with an email address, all the emails that get sent out from anybody, the responses or anything you send, goes into that one platform, into that group. So we have a record of everything that we've sent. And it's not intertwined with 200 advertisements that I've got from every account that I have, it just keeps it all in one place. Last we talked, if we get a request for information or or a right to know or anything like that, it's all there. It's just in one place. It's easier, and I think we can keep our files all there. We can, anything, every date that we've had a meeting where there's preparatory documents, they all go into that group, and it's just a consolidated place to keep everything. So that's what I was trying. That was my intent to set that up. It just hasn't, setup hasn't worked, and now we realize why with the lack of everybody has to have a Gmail. And so my last thing, so I'll keep working on that. My last thing before we move on to the I guess we'll look at the saldo again, but this question's for our solicitor. The right to know thing, I saw somewhere a right to know, they were asking for every email, every text message, they sent a thing to Mary. And she's, I feel like melted because of all the things she had to prepare for this right to know. Are we subject to that also?
As an agency, yes, you are.
And how would you go about doing that? I'd have to pull texts off of my phone of anything that I sent to Bob?
Well, first of all, we look at the right to know request to make sure it was narrowly tailored and it wasn't anything exempt or are certain exemptions. Anything like that, we typically have to get an extension because it is very burdensome. It takes a lot of time. So keep track, you don't delete anything, keep track of everything. And if it is subject to the right to know, then we would need to produce it.
So the Google Groups thing will keep all of our email in one place. So that's easy to retrieve. We don't have to go dig through our personal emails to get emails from any of the planning commission stuff. I mean, that's an easy one. And I had invited the last solicitor to that group, and I'll do the same for you.
If indeed this gentleman is correct about the Gmail, I know I don't have a Gmail, and it's certainly easy to make one. However, mine is protected by all my law firm website security, so I'm not so sure I could reset it. So we'll figure that out. I was thinking about that. I'm not sure if I can do that because I got all the super tough virus protections and privilege info, but I can look at that.
Okay.
I'd be happy to participate if I can. But having your emails all in one, absolutely, could make your life easier.
That would just keep everything in one repository, I don't know how we do text, and I don't even know how you pull text off. Do it screenshot it? Is that what we have to do?
I typically ask my much younger paralegal, and they're able to print it all, and
Well, I think the smarter thing is that's just not use text.
That's not
Right
use
now, we
text.
have to use text.
We have to use
I had no text between anything in the township, and it's easier to keep it.
it's always better to use your official, and then you can keep track of everything, and if you need to produce it, produce it.
Right. In fact, last meeting, we weren't sure if people were gonna be here, because we didn't have a quorum until late, and I didn't have anybody's phone numbers to even call and find out if they were coming, so we don't share that information, we don't have it, so let's keep everything on email, it's easy. These fine folks want to dig into what we're doing sometime, it's all in place, so. Okay, that's all I have. I'm sorry it took 45 minutes of our time, but I really thought we needed to pause for a minute and have a collective understanding. Our new members, 3 into the fire with a saldo review, and we really never all got on the same page with a lot of this stuff. So I've been meaning to do this and just felt it was beneficial for us to have that discussion. So I'm gonna end that. I guess the next thing we can talk about is this letter from the Gelati group. Bob, do you want to seem to have some comments on that?
Only a couple comments, and I think we can talk about it more in detail later. But my first comment is, they've got this whole letter here about discussion I had with them mentioning that we were starting the Center Townships. The problem is, they went Center Township, Beaver County. That's not what we're starting with at all. It's Center Township, Butler County. So everything that he mentions after that is sort of semi-pointless because it's not even referencing the right ordinance. But I did want to go through a couple, and I think the reason I say that, I think we actually want to look at each of these areas anyway, whether or not they're in Center Township, Beaver County, Center Township, Butler County, doesn't matter. What they're asking for is something that should be discussed in either event. But what I did want to mention is the whole slope thing, the very first thing that they bring up in that letter. The 25%. I actually drew up something for everyone here tonight. Just a very quick thing to give you an idea what 25% slope is. You're gonna have to share some of these because I didn't want to print a half dozen. Share those around. 25% slope may not seem like much, but the reality is 25% is a big deal. It's a steep slope, and a lot of slopes are steeper than 25%. So what I drew, what you've got in front of you, is if you went and created a pad for a single family house, and you do 150 foot, the reason I did 150 is a pad is typically in the 125-ish range, and then you have half of a road. So you've got a 50-foot road right away, so you've got 25 feet for the road, 125 feet for the pad. You've got about 150 feet of essentially level. Now granted, the lot will slope back some, so it doesn't have to be nice. But if you did it level, that's that 150 on the road. Then there's this line showing 4-to-1 underneath it. That's what a 4-to-1 slope. So say you're gonna do this, and you're gonna start your cut right at the middle of the road and go down to that 4-to-1. Then you're gonna have to fill all that stuff on that left. It takes 150 foot worth of distance to chase down that slope till you actually hit the ground you fit. So now you're 300 feet wide to have a 150 foot pad, and you've chased it down the hill 150 feet with an elevation difference of 75 feet. So you're 75 feet from that pad elevation until you hit the toe slope vertical distance. That's a big deal. And that's at 25 feet. And this is half the road, assuming you do a lot on the other side. Now you've got 75 feet with cut on that side at 25% slope. My point is this, 25% slope is a big deal. And things in excess of 25 are an even bigger deal. And the only reason I brought this up is so that we have it in our minds is we're talking about ordinances, slope ordinances, things like that. We seriously think about what we will and won't allow things like this. Because it gets very tough to chase that dirt down the hill on a steep slope. 25% is big, it's 33%, it's worse. So it does matter a lot. That's the point. Just a brief thing. I think the rest of those points, we should, as we're actually digging into the PRD of that, review some of those and see if any of it makes sense to be discussing in the context of our ordinance. But the comments are that they have weren't related to that ordinance anyway, so.
That's helpful.
You know,
You could have generated something a lot neater than this, but this was just a very quick, it matters.
It comes down to how you talk about slope, whether it's you prefer the 2-to-1 slope, 3-to-1 slope versus a percentage, because the percentage can get lost in the number. So I think when we're looking at those, we should just consider the nomenclature a little bit better so that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, usually roads and grades are percent, and cuts are 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and then vertical horizontal.
Yeah, civil engineering 3-to-1 is like the maximum for soil erosion, and you know, that's what my practice is based on. Always, you never could exceed 3-to-1 on a slide slope.
Yeah, typically it's
2-to-1.
2-to-1 is the maximum we do here, unless you're gonna have an engineer at the back. And
I think
inside and outside of ponds, pond exterior is 3-to-1, pond interior is 2-to-1. So if you chase this down to 3-to-1, it goes a lot further than that.
I think especially to be considered on this property is that it's at the edges, it's at the boundaries. A lot of it is steepness, and that's where we're getting a lot of public comment about.
Well, yeah, if you're already on a slope like that, and you chase the dirt down like that to hit it, and you're on a property line, oh,
That's the
where's
worst
it
place
going?
to.
Yeah,
It may not be too bad if you're in the middle of the property and you have like a nice, you know, little valley or, but on the edges, that's where it gets real. Yeah.
Now, some of their comments in here were related more to can 25%, can those areas be used in a density calculation? And that's something in a PRD that we can discuss. But I was looking at it from the standpoint of we really don't want to develop sites of that kind of slope.
Right.
Now, whether they can count to the lots that you can still get 100 acres, have 100 lots on it or something like that. That's a separate discussion. But you don't want to build on it.
And then how long it runs, I mean, if it's 25%, it's just a short run, you know, that's one thing, you build walls and you do things, but if it's a long run, you get a lot of runoff, you got a lot of issues, erosion. So, but I think that the property, where it is on the property is very important, and how long and the percent, I don't think 25%, that's not a bad limit, if that's our limit too, I can't remember what ours has.
We don't have them. There's nothing.
Oh, there's nothing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying is we're discussing some of
Okay.
this. We should be having discussions about slope, either slope ordinance or merge it into the other ordinances as we go. There should be some discussion as we move forward relative to this stuff.
Especially the buffer and property edge, I think.
Slope height too, because of the height of the, full height of the back. If it's only 10 feet high or 15 feet high, then, you know, you're just trying to flatten something out. It's a backyard, it's not, they're not building on it.
A lot of municipalities will actually limit and have you put flat areas in, so you'll step it. So if you have a little kid starting to roll down the hill, at least get stopped every 25 feet, something.
Benching it in also.
Yeah, terrace planning works well, you know, but, you know, steep is steep, that's pretty steep.
Yeah.
25% is pretty steep.
2 to 1's really steep.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound steep, it doesn't sound so steep until you actually start really looking at it, then it's like, this is steep.
I take it on the perspective, can I walk it? And I can't walk it to the wood.
Okay. So we appreciate the comments, but they were looking at the wrong set of township. So,
Was there any other thing for that?
any other comments on the?
No, I was just looking at it, that I do think it's worth bringing these up again when we're discussing the PR.
Yeah.
So we at least glance at them and say, yes, we like this idea, no, we don't like this idea. And if we at least have it in our head and make a conscious decision about some of the stuff.
They also talk about what would be acceptable to a home buyer in this demographic, and he's mentioned that several times in here. And,
Open space.
The open spaces,
and lot sizes and size of front yards and backyards. Yeah, I don't know, maybe tap Joel for that, he's a real estate guy. But, I don't know if that's true or not true. It's more profit driven or demographics driven.
I think it's what he wants.
What fits his plan, right? Yeah.
I mean, the trend is to have more backyard and front yards, because that's where you enjoy your family and everything else, you don't really go in the front yard. So, to me, that's a trend that's differing than maybe what has happened in the past. So,
Instead of balancing it out, even front and back, they want to push more to the front and have bigger backyards.
Correct.
Like you're saying.
yes.
I want the fence in the backyard.
Yeah, that's definitely the trend in the industry, is having bigger backyards, more private backyards. So that has to be balanced with a front yard where the driveways and sidewalks are reasonable.
Yeah.
And the further you push it, you would be turning to Venango trails down there, where you've got driveways sitting at 15, 20% in some of those driveways. Which I've seen cars actually bottom out as they pull into the garage, because the driveway is like this and the garage is like that, and the car hits. So you must have it far enough back, but that's not a problem. You can still park and those kind of things, and keep that slope of driveway reasonable.
Yeah, and then as far as cars and parking, you can't cheat it. You can't make it so that it's just like a car and a half, because people will block. It either has to be full 2 cars deep or 1. If you go a car and a half, it's not gonna work. If somebody will be blocking the sidewalk, and bumpers have it out into the street.
Well, but there is no such thing, because if you make it for a pickup truck and you say you're gonna be 20 foot deep or something like that, because I think a normal stall is 18 foot deep. And if you make it a little bit more than that, so you're off of the sidewalk, make it 20 foot deep. Now someone gets 2 little cars, those 2 added up are 25 feet, 30 feet.
Jam it in,
So you're still in the same issue.
hopefully we can figure a way to solve it.
I was kind of, you know, it was interesting to see their letter, because they didn't have a lot of comments, maybe from you know, they're critical comments, but they're not, it's not like they have 20 comments on them. It did the wrong set of regulations they're looking at. It didn't seem like they had a lot of input at this stage.
Okay, well, we've got an hour to work on the next part of the salad, and that's reviewing the, where we left off the last time.
My notes where we left off, page 41. Is that what other people saw as well?
Between B and C, is that?
Oh, I was just gonna basically start right at the top of that.
Page 41, that's where I have, it may be.
Because it's been over a month since we last looked at this.
I have page 41 also.
I had passed out the ordinance from different township on the access requirements. What prompted this was looking at the Nussbauer property where they had one entrance to a huge plant. And said that we really need to make sure we've got, for a certain number of homes or more, we really need to make sure there's two access roads. Did we get to that? I don't remember. If we did not, we can just table this ordinance, because I think it was well written, it's pretty definitive. If we've already done it, I'd like to go back. I handed it out just today, so.
Yeah.
Right there. Okay. Anybody remember if we looked at that, or I don't think we did.
Well, I don't know that there was anything we would discuss that.
There was, because of boulevards, remember?
You have more discussion, so.
We discussed that last time.
Figure it out.
Yeah, 2 entrances shall be provided for any development exceeding 30 housing units. So
Where are
that's,
we at?
it's 2 pages ahead of where we're starting, so we will get there. We're not there yet.
Oh, so it's coming up, okay, fine.
Okay,
Okay, so you want me to?
please, go ahead.
Okay, so, we are on page 41 and 243-23A. And I know we started this discussion, and we had some back and forth on whether the township should maintain, whether the township maintain and developer pay, or the developer maintain and leave it at that. And I honestly don't remember where the consensus headed.
Developer pay for the township to maintain.
That was where
That's
people
what,
were
we
headed.
did a vote, I believe. And I think that's where.
Is that what others are remembering as well? No.
We can do those, I remember.
Okay, so did we, I think we talked about that as well in terms of how to implement that. Was it there? That's a problem going on. The way it's done in Adams, and I just actually signed one here a couple weeks ago. I pay so much per foot, and I can get you the number, so much per foot of road per season. And I sign an agreement that's a couple of pages long that we then send in and pay them. They plow it and take care of it. And that's just required on their part. There's no option for me to maintain or anything else. And the truth is, I actually like it this way. It's done, it's consistent. That would mean if the township would have to have some kind of form, agreement and all as well.
And capability. But they would have to have that eventually anyhow, right?
Correct.
So once it's done, they're gonna have to take that over and have that capability, just be sooner maybe than it's planned.
But remember, they're getting paid for it anyway, so it's not like it's, oh, my goodness, it's coming out of the township's pocket, because it's sufficient money to, the township isn't supporting it. It's the developer pay. Okay, anything else on A? Then B. We had a comment there. I commented ages ago, I guess, about lowering 90% to some other number. I've seen everywhere from 75 to 90% between different townships. I'm an advocate of having it a little bit lower, and Tom's probably aware of one of the reasons would be like up in Timber Ridge, when we essentially took a couple lots off the market, that I kept an additional one, and another neighbor bought two, getting something built. All of a sudden, that made the math such that to get 90, you were actually getting 95+%, which is a lot. So, the question is at what level, or do you make some kind of dispensation for the, someone that says, you know what, these lots are not on the market or something. I don't know how you handle that.
Do we say the original plan I submitted, so then if they start gerrymandering things around, they have to count from what was originally submitted?
Well, the plan wasn't resubmitted or changed, so it's the same plan. It's just that I ended up keeping a lot beside me for more buffer, and another person bought two with the intention of building. But to Tom's point at the time, both of those lots are still lots that I could go and change my mind and sell it. So that's why I was more an advocate of not changing and giving grace to people saying, like a developer coming in and saying, you know what, we're not going to sell this lot. I don't really want to give much credence to that, because who knows, they could turn around and sell it. But doing the same thing by lowering that number, bringing that number to 80% or something like that, in line with a lot of other municipalities. And that gives a little bit of leeway for, you know what, maybe a couple lots aren't going to sell. Maybe the developer is keeping it, or someone bought two or whatever. Food for time.
So the 90%, is that pretty much the standard?
Well, that's what I was saying, it varies. I've seen it everywhere between 75 and 90. 90 is the highest I've seen, and that's here, and that's the only one I'm aware of at 90.
So the trigger of this is that it says that the township can either accept or deny, so it doesn't really matter what the level is, does it?
Oh, no, the township will not, you cannot offer it if it's less than 90.
Okay.
The township won't even accept the offer of dedication.
So this triggers that decision making.
Which I never understood. Because the one up beside me up there, on Waystone, you guys accepted before 90%.
That was a long time ago, yes.
It was after Timber Ridge, though.
Yeah, it ultimately comes down to how many lots are going to be built on. Is there damage to those lots by having those activities come in when the township owns the road? That's no different than somebody wants to build a new garage or an addition onto their house. You're still going to have that contractor. You're still going to have those concrete trucks. You're still going to do that, but they're not as frequent. So the question is, you know, what number do you want to have that at? For every, 10 lots, you'd have to have 9 built and occupied before you even consider taking it over, and then reduce that to 7.5 or 8. That's ultimately the question. And
Now,
again, it's just,
if that is set back to 75, my question is, does the township have to accept taking care of those roads?
if it's built to your standard, to me, they have to.
Okay.
But legally, they don't. Legally, they don't, but in practice, if you build to the township standards, I've never seen a township deny an offer of dedication if you build to the standards. Because I think the challenge would just be tremendous. The grounds for a developer saying, wait a minute, you're taking this road. And the developer probably wouldn't. But the way it's always written is, it's an offer, and then to be accepted.
Then a question, Tom, you said about at 75%, there's still a couple lots to be built there. Would the contractor have to bond that road?
That's where it becomes difficult because it's local delivery issues. So you don't have one contractor building multiple entities perhaps, so it's hard to enforce that. Now, what you could do is, you know, if there's a lot that's sitting and you're taking this over, you can take pictures beforehand. When you see that they damaged it, they would have to fix that area. But in some cases, that damage may not show up for a while, and that's where you get into
Okay. So you can't actually bond it, but if it,
unless it was, you know, it was weird, but if you had, say, a second phase where we're driving through the first phase, you could bond the first phase.
okay.
So,
Well,
but
the way,
that's a road, it's not necessarily dedication, that's a road over the lot.
the way a lot of other municipalities handle that is they do not allow, they will not accept an offer of dedication of any portion of road which is used to access another phase until the other phase also meets the requirements. And I think that's a reasonable requirement.
That's what we would prefer.
Yeah.
Then you get the top coat put on, and he gets the one that gets damaged, so.
I'd like to keep it at 90%. I just know homes that will go on my road are just destroyed by the trucks and traffic and offloading equipment and concrete trucks and everything else. That road wasn't in the greatest condition to begin with, but it's far worse now. We got a new road. I think they need to be careful until they're done. And that's gonna, 75%, that gives them a lot more leeway of being less careful at the end and when they're finished.
Once again, I go back to, if for some reason it's a weird situation where it would be right to do it at less than 90%, they can come and ask for that, right? I mean, that is something they can ask for an excuse or exemption for that, can they?
That's a good question, because I did ask and it was denied.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a formal ask.
It's a subdivision topic, so the supervisors would have control on issuing the variance or waiver for that.
If that's the case, I don't have a problem keeping that 90% too, but I could foresee examples where, like you were saying, Bob, something like you were describing, where it comes up where it's not gonna be the case, or they wanna present it, hey, it makes sense, we're not gonna have to worry about it, then if there's an exit for them, then I think that's fine.
What do you recommend, Tom?
Yeah, I like the 90 just because I think it protects the township.
Let's keep it in mind.
Then if it's less than 90, that's when the contractor would come to the township.
For the variance.
Yeah, for variance.
Well, to pay the township to, okay.
Yeah, I think we want to also, when we're doing this, this goes back to A a little bit. With the maintenance, I think we actually want to incorporate in here cutoff time. And it's always based on liquid fuels. So the cutoff time in Adams, I think it's something like mid-September. It's some date like that, but we should put a date in here that any road not accepted by the township, not offered for dedication, but accepted by the township by September 15th or something, you must still pay maintenance for that year. That's what I'm doing in Adams. I'm still paying for this year and I'm offering the road in November. And I know that I have to pay winter maintenance on it. That's just the way it is. So I think we should put a date in here as well. And I think the September 15th is a reasonable number, because I don't know when liquid fuels is, but it's somewhere in October right now.
Well, I think they actually pushed it up to September.
Oh, is it? Okay. End of September or something, is that the idea?
I think it's earlier, mid-September.
So is September 15th the right date? Because the township still needs to be able to have, the township needs to accept in enough time that then they can apply for liquid, add that road for liquid fuels.
I'll pull that from the
Okay,
I'll just put it
okay. Agreed that that's a good thing?
Yeah. Is it the date, is the same date okay, or should we say 2 weeks in advance of that?
Well, I think it's the date as long as it's dedicated before that date. So obviously the township's gonna have a meeting and they're gonna have to have ordinances approved. It has to happen before that date. So it's never gonna most likely happen on the exact day it happened before. But it's a reporting issue that when you report it to the liquid fuels, you get it incorporated.
And there'll be a big lead time to get to that approval or acceptance. So even though they have to push the button, they're going to see that, they're going to see that coming.
Planning to get to that stage.
Oh, it takes months.
Right, so they'll see that coming well in advance. Okay,
Typically, it takes me more than 4 months to get a road from when it starts until it's offered for dedicated, until it's dedicated. Okay, so we're leaving the 90 in B. Next comment that I have on this is in C1. Developer shall provide the township with a draft agreement. I don't provide anyone else with draft agreements except my master. Why is that? Why do you want the developer to provide that instead of having the township have a boilerplate?
It doesn't matter to me if Michelle feels comfortable saying, here's our agreement, and you use it, that's fine. It's just, I think it was set up because the township didn't have many developments, so they didn't have a standard to go by.
Because I think if the township had a standard agreement and the developer simply provided the legal description and the exhibit to go with it, that's what we should be doing instead of allowing each developer to come up with their own agreement. I just don't think that's a wise thing to do.
That's typically how all my places do it. We do it, there's one, either dedication agreement.
You plug where the developer provides you with road names and legal descriptions, and then you go and take it from there and merge into an agreement that becomes the basis of the ordinance. Okay. So you'll adjust that, Tom? Okay, down to number 2. Oh yeah, developers shall provide 3 certified copies and electronic copy of the engineering study justifying the signage. Oh, yeah. And a copy of the draft authorization. I've never provided any study for signage. Even the line tax, I've never provided any study for, we're talking stop signs, speed limit signs, any of that stuff. The way it's always been done, and the way it's done here, the way it's done in other townships, is I talk to there's a township zoning official, I talk to them. If not, it's a township engineer. And they say, you put a stop sign here, you put a speed limit here, you put a no outlet and watch children, and here's where you put them, and that's what we want. So why is that?
Just to get support for the township when they adopt the ordinance to place that stop sign or place that weight limit sign, that there's meat behind it. So either we prepare that and charge the developer the developer pays for it. So we felt it was easier in the last few that we've done for Arden and Scenic Ridge, they've actually provided for it.
And they get someone like Wooster or someone to do it?
Those studies don't have to be used. They're not.
Oh, no, it's the PennDOT forms, it's
Yeah.
more procedural issues than anything else.
Traffic counts.
Correct, so it's why, I mean, somebody has to do that for support, document the need for whatever that issue is, so that's why we put it back in this development. And we haven't had any pushback from them.
So a certified copy, that's just coming from Wooster then as well?
Somebody has
Just a sealed
Correct.
study.
Do we have signage standards?
We do, we follow the PennDOT standard, which dictates certain size of signs and where those places are.
Like for blind children,
If there was a need for that, yeah.
it's all covered by PennDOT. Right.
Just to get off on a slight, and I'm fine if we want to keep it that way, if that makes sense for everybody. Just to get off on a slight tangent. Do we specify in the township the street name signs in exact format? Uppercase, lowercase, mixed case,
they-
size, green, blue, all that?
So what happens in that case is the developer says these are our street signs, township purchases them for their standard and get reimbursed.
Oh, you do?
Yes, that is what has been done. Instead of going to a company and saying, hey, we want your sign, it's easier.
I thought for sure I bought the signs.
The way we've been doing it lately is
Okay.
Developer puts the signs for the township, goes out and buys those. In some cases, the developer pays the township to put the signs up, just because then everything is township standard. Poles, posts, everything,
Okay.
and then they pay for all of it.
Because that's always been an issue, go to Stevenson or something like that, get the signs made. And you need to know mixed case, uppercase, lowercase, size, green, blue, white border, no border. Right? All those standards that have to be applied in getting an actual street name sign.
What about, speed bumps? I know that's not probably part of this, but is that considered, is there standards in the township for that?
Currently, the township doesn't have a standard for
Does it
those.
prohibit it? Or-
We follow the PennDOT criteria for those, if there was a need for it, so.
Okay, so it's
But in general, with snow, you hate them.
Correct. And they're not a friend of it.
Snowplow.
I know in other places, some communities get very strong with that. They put really nasty speed bumps in. Like Seventh Spring. Seven Fields, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're keeping to C2 exits. Okay, C4. This goes back to that same thing again too, is the township gonna have a standard for a resolution? Okay, so that'll be township standard in that first act. Or template, I should say. Developers also provide a title insurance policy conveyed to the township for the full cost of the street. I don't even remember doing that. Is that being done? Did I do it?
I don't know if you did yet.
Okay, over on maintenance bond, on the next page, we are moving blazing lightning speed here. Okay, 24324B. Yeah, that's just a wording thing. You agree, Tom, from the date of this chapter?
Correct.
Yeah, you'll fix that, so it's.
Yep.
Okay, see if any time during bonding period is determined by the supervisors that the public improvements covered by the securities require maintenance or repair, the board may have securities or a portion thereof declared forfeit and shall direct utilization is forfeited from solely to the completion level. Are we gonna add language, and I would prefer we add language in there allowing the developer to correct first.
We typically do.
But do we need language in there or not? Is the township ever actually gone after funds to do this?
No, because the developer's always says.
Yeah. But do we need that, put language in here that the township notifies the developer and if the developer refuses or chooses not to, or doesn't do it in a timely fashion, or something?
Whose job is that to look at that, if it needs fixed?
So the township, generally the township and us will go out prior to it being, the maintenance period going through. And we may get complaints from residents that says, hey, there's a pothole here or something like that, so it's easier to do that. But typically we'll do an inspection prior to final completion of the maintenance bond for the deficiencies.
Yeah, for mine, Tom and I would walk the project shortly before the end of the 18 months and Shields or whoever comes and fixes whatever needs to be done. But I don't know, I'm just thinking it might make sense to add a little bit of language like that. And then in the event that it's not corrected in a timely fashion, then you do these things. What do you guys think?
Michelle, do you think we need that type of language? Is it?
Just gives the developer more chances. Right now, it's up to us.
Any objections to adding a
No, I
little
think-
developer sentence?
I think it's a good idea.
So you want a separate stage? Is that the comment?
No, I was thinking at the beginning of C, just go and have another sentence in there, allowing the developer the opportunity to fix first. Then, in the event that they don't do it in a timely fashion, township does it. It's honestly in the developer's best interest to get it done. Because number one, he's gonna get it done cheaper. Because normally he pushes right back on Shields or someone else and they come fix it for free because they're part of it. And the developer wants his money back. He doesn't want this money being held as a bond somewhere. He wants his money back. So they're highly incentivized to actually do the work and do it in a timely fashion. Okay, final release of the maintenance bond. Well, E's the same thing. Yeah, E's exactly the same issue, correct?
Yes.
Design standards, 243.26. Okay, Dave had a couple comments here on E.
Yeah, in the opinion of a registered professional engineer, his opinion, is that strong enough language?
Okay. As you say, it depends on what you're doing. If it's floodplain, then your floodplain ordinance covers what you can and can't do in flood. So it dictates how you go through that procedure. And to me, that would most likely cover something like this. Because you would require a certificate by either a surveyor or an engineer saying what you're gonna do or how you're gonna try to go through the changing methods to alleviate the flood issue.
I was just going to further define that as somebody who is registered in the Commonwealth.
Can we, the surveyor, make that same opinion?
It depends on what they do. I mean, when you do like a letter of amendment, the surveyor does that as opposed to an engineer. So it could be either, but we could put that in there as well.
As appropriate.
Right.
What about the gray areas? I mean, the black and white ones, the floodplain, no. But there's always, the gray areas are always the ones that get us in trouble. Because no one's quite sure. And that's where, in the opinion of an engineer, I don't know that that's strong enough.
Well, could we have more than one engineer have to do that opinion? Like, we require 2 engineers to do that? Does that make sense?
I mean, if you're asking for somebody to certify that you can do it, to me, we don't need that one entity. It would be, if a neighbor decided that they didn't agree with it, then they could hire somebody to disagree with that and do somebody with a position that says, no, it shouldn't be done. So I don't think you need more than one. I think that confuses the issue, but you need one that's qualified, so.
And back to Meredith's comment, registered in Pennsylvania. I'm not questioning that it's necessary, I'm questioning, should that be on all of our stuff?
It is, and that's where we may just put that in definition.
Okay.
Add a definition, engineer, registered engineer, something registered.
Okay.
So we don't have that issue come up in a paragraph. We'll search that back in the first time it hits the word for definition.
Okay. Is professional engineering capitalized? No, it's not usually.
I don't think so.
I know solicitors.
Okay, moving on to monuments, 243.27. Okay, I'd have to go back through all this again, but monuments and survey pins, I think that. Okay, the terminology I've always used, Tom, and I need to see if we're on the same page. Monuments are the surveyor marks along the road right of way typically, that the engineer surveyor is going to use to locate other points. Right? Markers are the points on the exterior of the property, marking the boundaries, corner points of the boundary of the property. Correct. That's not what's written here. Okay. So it's not me just misunderstanding. So it's basically they're written backwards.
Correct.
Okay. And I didn't have any comment other than that, other than that they were all just backwards. Next page, streets, 24328. And this is where we get into the two entrances. So in F, two entrances shall be designed for any development that exceeds 30 houses. And that's where I made the comment about boulevard. Two entrances may not always be possible or feasible for HOP. You may not even be able to get two entrances on something that requires an HOP anyway. They may not give you that. Or some topographic kind of issues. So, what are people's thoughts and comments here?
This sheet I passed out, Mike Dover provided us 2 months ago that I think kind of got misplaced. I think it defines things pretty well. We did talk about not particularly liking emergency access, but that's the only option we have for getting into a subdivision because we can't provide a permanent second entrance. I think we still need to keep that. One way or another, if it's over a certain size, it should have two entrances. We could, I don't know about, the boulevard works in some regards, but if it's only so long, you go into a huge plan and you only got a boulevard up, the first 2 blocks, what happens beyond that? When that house has a gas explosion and wipes everything out, right?
Well, I think, for example, in my developments, I got up in the Duffy Highlands or in the Wrigley development. So you put a boulevard into Wrigley. That boulevard should go to the point where there's 2 options. Fire truck can go left and right. You never want to just go turn a boulevard into non-boulevard on a straight because you've defeated the purpose. You've got a single point of entry at that point. Duffy Highlands, I did the same thing. I brought the boulevard in until you could turn right and left at the roundabout. That way, you now have again two accesses to all parcels except a couple of streets on a cul-de-sac, which are exempt from those things. So I think if we're going to use boulevards, it would be a requirement to have that boulevard go to a point such that it becomes multiple ways.
I think it has to.
Yeah. It would have to be written as such. We'd never want it to be otherwise. I'm not a huge fan of emergency access. And the biggest problem I have with emergency access is who's going to maintain it? And when it actually needs to be used, is it in a condition to actually use it? And I think the reality to that is no.
Some of the examples in here were, let's say the plan adjoins a shopping center, okay? And they have an emergency access where they have a gate, the shopping center parking lot, and they can open that gate or drop a chain, and not very far is the closest road. And if it's flat and level, even if it's overgrown with some weeds, they can still get through there relatively. And that's at least one of the examples that I saw. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. Certainly, some long protracted road through the woods where there's trees that come down. We know that's not.
Right.
Especially in winter.
Yeah, so that's the struggle I have with it. I would prefer 2 accesses over a boulevard. And this, the emergency is just, how's it going to actually be usable when it's needed.
Yeah. I kind of read this, that emergency access, it's not really like a special area, gate. It's just it's a road that the emergency equipment can get in, right? It's not a dedicated emergency access point. It is a traversable road that emergency equipment and vehicles use. So essentially, if you got more than 50, the one that Dave has you have to have 2 points of access into that development, just in case one block or I think that's pretty good policy. Am I making any sense?
You are, but the problem is, if you have an access that's essentially a gravel drive into the back end of the development that then wanders off a quarter mile to somewhere, since it's unmaintained.
I don't think that that's the intent. I think it's an access that emergency equipment can use, and I don't think it has to be dedicated to them. You know what I'm saying?
It's difficult because if somebody's got to own it. So if the HOA owns it, then there's a maintenance responsibility. The question is, depending on how natural that is or unnatural that is, or how steep the slope is, it's going to require maintenance that it may never get used for 15 years. That somebody in the HOA says, okay, let's quit maintaining it when you need it. So to me, you really need to have 2 ways in that are guaranteed so you don't have an issue. We had a development in another township that its only access was on a 1-lane road with a bridge and a railroad track. And they wanted a secondary access, but because of slope, the only thing they could do was a 20% grade through the hills basically to get to something. And they realized that would never work because you don't want to pave it and you don't want to maintain that. It would not hold up in time. And then you have the issue of trees falling down on it. When the winters are too icy to get up and down, it just doesn't work. So I think you want to have it so up front you have 2 ways of getting it out. You don't want to have an emergency route that's used partially, unless you have 2 developments where you can potentially loop a road and then gate it or something like that. That would be a little different.
I would prefer we just require 2 real entrances, public roads that are offered for dedication. And in the event that a developer cannot achieve that, he comes back and asks for a variance. And then you have to justify his position. That I think the emergency, it works in Florida. I know a lot of the big developments have it in Florida, but Florida doesn't have the snow and all those issues that we have up here that make it very, very difficult. Most of those are exactly what you're saying in terms of it's a 100-foot stretch to go from this cul-de-sac to a public road and there's a gate across. It's not a big stretch, it's not a lot to maintain, and those work. But up here, if you can't get to, it's probably because graphically it just doesn't
A lot of
work.
it, I think, would be more like a farmland and not.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be plowed out in the winter. Anytime there's much snow, you have to plow it. You can go in it, today it's fine, there's no trees down. You go in tomorrow, the day that you need it, there's a tree laying across the.
Well, aside from that, thought with the 2 entrances, so if you have 150 homes, I don't know about the PennDOT studies work, but for traffic, we're talking like a 50-foot lane down here. Now you have 150 homes there, and that's at least 300 trips in and out of that place every day. That's a lot of traffic going down half those houses are on the other side. Because that's the only way those people have to get out. So that's another thing to consider. Like you live next door to that. You want just 1 entrance where all those people have to go in and out and half your house all day, all night. Like that's the other side of the thing too. At least with like our neighbors on the back and the front, you can go different ways so people on one end out of
Is a boulevard considered 2 separate entrances and exits?
No, it's considered one. But the advantage, the reason the boulevard works is because it's separated by a median. And that allows, if there's a problem on one side of the road, an accident, a fire, whatever, they can take over, emergency equipment can take over the other side of the road and still get in and out. So that's the essence of it, even though it's a single point of entry.
So it doesn't, what you're saying, Joe, that it still doesn't.
It still doesn't fix that.
No, it doesn't fix
the,
trip count. Yeah.
So I just thought I think we should consider as far as like, if PennDOT doesn't regulate it by having all the traffic on one point, then something we should consider is there a maximum amount of houses that we feel like, you have to have 2 entries, otherwise too many houses come, how many cars can pass the same spot at the same time, so.
This ordinance at 50, our ordinance is proposing 30. Mike had a comment?
I did, since I shared this with you. I agree with the statements of the emergency, well, a couple things, emergency access. I would cut that out except for number 5 and 4, which I think Paul mentioned, that, you can't have emergency access around here unless it's so specified. Because it could turn to mud, it could just be overgrown, somebody could dump, spikes there. I mean, I'm getting off the tangent here, but I think it's emergency access, it's gonna have to be adjoining another neighborhood, in a road, in a chain. The other thing I wanted to say is that this 50, I think that's a lot. 30 is probably more reasonable. But that's up to you guys to decide. One thing I would recommend, and I did reach out to John Kovacic from the fire department, and just on, trying, because my biggest concern about this safety here, and I think everybody seems to be on the same page, it could be a safety issue, regardless. There's so many things we can do that can get at it, but he mentioned to me that he's never been contacted by the township for any of these developments. So I guess maybe we should get fire department, EMS, people that actually in an emergency would need access and get there. Just my thoughts. I'm sure you guys can plan 30 homes, so definitely sounds more reasonable than 50. A lot more reasonable than 124 or on Wrigley, or I don't know, what was the number up on Custom, which I think they were just throwing that out there as Paul said. I think maybe that was down on Ryan said it, but that was an outrageous number. But would the planning commission consider possibly getting, I could reach out to John again and ask him, I'm sure he was very eager to give his comments, because he was very upset that he hadn't been contacted about it.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm happy to, once we're at a good point, to share this with him. Ask him, point to the areas we'd like him to look at and give us some feedback.
But we don't have the Wrigley plan yet. Remember, all we've got, we don't have the Wrigley plan yet. All we have is a curative amendment.
I understand that.
So
I'm just saying, but in the development of these ordinances that we're stated here tonight, to prevent things like this from happening in the future, it would be nice to have input from those that might be directly involved in the actual ordinances which you're in the process of doing, to maybe get some input on it.
it's actually a good point, and we as a township don't require a fire truck plan.
We do.
Okay.
And we require the developer to reach out to fire departments for highway locations and other stuff for their plans, and we get a letter back whenever that plan is before you.
So there is some of that going on. So
Apparently, I believe John Kovacic is the director of something to do with the fire department. He said they had never been contacted.
that I can listen to.
So last time they were on fire department contact was for removals.
Tom, from what you said, the developer, would the developer have to reach out to him before he has approval or after?
Before he has
process,
approval,
yeah.
but once he has it submitted, on the preliminary plan, we usually have a comment that we need that, unless I.
Okay, so we're not that far along on the.
But you're
Well,
past,
Wrigley, we're
I
not.
thought you're past that, Wrigley, aren't you?
No, we haven't even seen a plan for Wrigley.
Wrigley submitted a proposal that
No.
you rejected.
Wrigley has not. Wrigley has submitted a curative amendment.
And before that,
They've
When they-
shown us
when they
what
asked-
they're going to submit.
well, that was their submission, they came up with a down
There's
presentation.
been no submission.
Correct, yeah, they have nothing, they've given nothing to the township or planning commission.
So that was a preliminary plan.
It's not even preliminary.
We saw conceptual.
Okay.
Wrigley is presented with, is going to be their preliminary submission if they get the curative amendment. But
My
it's
misunderstanding.
curative amendments first.
But in the future, if this would happen, it's not an example of that plan, they couldn't pass some ordinances, so they went for variance, they got denied the variance. They would have been denied even before that on this, if, say you had 30 homes on a single access was prohibited.
They'd have had to ask for a variance or something, yeah.
Okay, I guess that's what I'm trying to set us up for, so in the future, because I think that's what we're trying to do here, we're doing the houses and PRDs there, just try to set it up so we have a plan for the future for the township. If I'm understanding what you guys are trying to accomplish here, so, sounds like it.
But the Nussbaum farmers, their comment was that, what options do I have as a developer? I'm landlocked, I only have one road, what should I do? It's like,
Well, that's where they come to you and say, you're gonna say we want 2 entrances, they're gonna say I can't, then you're gonna decide, is there a happy medium
That's right.
somewhere that works where you can get emergency vehicles in or some other entity to do something?
Or we could put our foot down and say, no, you need to buy an adjacent parcel and fix this problem. Or you need to buy additional right of way to get out to the street, something.
I gotta add one more comment, because I sat and see you guys are sitting there, and I had to deny multiple families who wanted to put more than 2 homes on a single lane. Toward their home, lived here for 100 years, but they wanted to put another family member on that road, they were denied it because the township didn't want more than 2 homes on private land. So if we could deny that, we can certainly say 30 homes, or 50 or 40, or whatever you guys decide. I agree, you got it. Which, sorry, that is another entrance. So.
I think we go clear. I think we don't do emergency accesses. I think we do
no private.
multiple dedicated accesses, offer for dedication accesses, and I actually like the 50 over the 30. And you cut that number at 50. Anything over 50 you require it, and we hold to it. And on something like the Nussbaumer property, if they're serious about this, they're gonna buy another parcel, merge the things together, and get multiple accesses. So they're gonna go up front and buy someone's house and get another access, or wider access to the street. That'll be their problem. It's not our problem.
Yeah, we're not here to fix their problems.
I'll sell. That's money. And then I guess the next step would be, how many to 2 entrances?
Well, the 2, you're not gonna be very limited. The idea is, if there's an emergency, you need to be able to get in. And the likelihood, the probability of both entrances being blocked simultaneously is extremely low. So you'd be in the thousands. I know developments in Florida that are, 10,000 homes on 2 entrances.
I thought it was
Florida, too.
It might be, but the point is, the probability of an accident or fire blocking both entrances getting in is extremely, extremely low.
And I've been in Florida after a hurricane. There were no entrances, and so, you can't say, well, 2 entrances is enough, because after a hurricane comes through or a tornado comes through and tears out one whole section where the roads were, you can't get in, nobody.
Third entrance would probably been the
You
same
can't
thing.
get in there and service the homes that are still surviving. You need a 3rd entrance or a 4th entrance.
Yeah, I worked on a lot of emergency response, storm. I've had a natural gas explosion that blocked the road, couldn't get into the neighborhood, it was kind of on fire. Yeah, it can happen, but it's very, very limited chance of both.
And the
I
truth
think 2
is,
is better than 1,
and the truth is, developments around here are gonna have like hundreds of homes. They're not gonna have the tens of thousands. You can't put together enough ground up here to have 10,000 homes in a development.
especially if you're telling it 2019. Like that corner is gonna be, if you have 1 entrance for, I'm sure Gigliotti and those guys are gonna buy a lot more property there if they get their way.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind that often happens in the development world is, even if they would come in with a Nussbaumer property, we could make it a condition of the plan that, okay, we'll let you have 1 entrance into this plan, but you're gonna have a dedicated 50-foot piece of property that joins neighboring parcels, so that in the event that those neighboring parcels are developed, there's gonna be a connection. And those kind of things get done in other townships all the time. But I wouldn't start there. I start with you two, we need to figure out how to make it happen.
So let's keep it as is. Are we good with 30? You want to change it up that? I don't have a feel for that, I really don't. I just perceive, the fire truck goes into, tries to get into, something blows up or something happens, and then the rubberneckers driving by have an accident right in the entrance. And then the fire truck can't get it, right? That's the scenario, that's the failure mode that happens. Everyone's looking to see the fire, and then they have some kind of an accident right at the entrance, and so you need that second entrance. Correct. But the number 50 or 30, I don't know what the right number is.
I'm an advocate of 50. What have you seen other places?
I mean, we've seen people do 90 or 100 homes with one entrance, and to me, that's an issue. 30 is a little light, I think, just because I just think you have a longer development, you easily could have 30 homes, and I don't know that there would be issues. I mean, to me, I could see bump outs, for mid-ridge, if it's a long cul-de-sac or a loop in a cul-de-sac, you have a bump out somewhere, which is something we promote, but I would think something closer to 50 is probably more accommodating. 30 is just, I think it's just not that bad.
What's the difference? Well, 40.
What if it's 50?
Department's input.
What if it's 50?
I'm sorry to keep going back to that, I'm just,
Well, the fire department really, it's more an issue for fire hydrants for them. And
I
they
know,
do
but I mean,
review.
I'm just saying, use logically, they're the ones that are, and EMS, not just the fire department, but the emergency responders, whether it's fire department or, whoever runs our ambulance service. I guess it's on Portersville or Harmony. Yeah, I'm just asking, I just don't like it.
Well, I think maybe when we have them review it, it's something we call his attention.
Okay, I mean, I can reach out, or you guys can reach out.
All right. What are we landing on 30 or 50? Matt, what do you think?
50.
Debbie?
Go with 50. These are, what units are these? Only townhomes?
You're a single townhomes right there.
It's housing units.
It's housing units.
It's either a single family house or each townhouse
Could be a
individual.
plant, could be a townhouse community.
How many access points is in that Seneca Trails, townhomes? On Harmony, there's just one in there? There's a lot, there's gonna be a lot of units. It's hard to get to, too.
Dale, 50 or 30?
I like
We
the
have two
40.
entrances and 30.
40.
I like 40 too.
Okay, we got two 40s, huh? Bob, you like
I was 50.
50? Meredith?
37, no. Since we're being special, 30.
I'm going to the middle 40s.
Uh-oh. You have to vote.
I didn't have it.
That's that final review day.
Let's go with 40. Seems to be the consensus average.
And don't cut through access roads.
Okay, G, you had a comment, Dave? What is that?
Unless there was hardship, no access, facing the boulevard. So, do we just keep that out and let them come back to us with a proposal on the boulevard or some other access? Because the minute we say boulevard, that's gonna be their plan, okay? That's what's gonna happen. Well, we really want two entrances, right?
You do, I think you leave it as two entrances, and to me, the alternative is, okay, you may consider a boulevard if it works for that development, and they can come back to something else.
They may say, we've got plenty of frontage, we're gonna make it wide, we're gonna have left turn lanes, we're gonna put a big median in the middle. If it's tight like Nussbaumers, it probably isn't gonna, even a boulevard isn't gonna work there.
Correct.
The boulevard would be essentially a yellow double wide,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so we just, cross G out. So just- What street should it? I don't get this.
You don't get what?
For G, one street permitted from a subdivision or arterial or collector street, or two or more streets, maybe. If they approve the traffic circulation.
Yeah, this problem is F and G written as two independent sentences is a little bit contradictory.
We just delete G?
You could, I mean, the question is the arterial road, is it, you know, where are you gonna find that? You're gonna have, I mean, to me, you only want one entrance on that arterial road, but again, you don't have that road in your system, you're not gonna do anything. It really doesn't apply to the township as it stands today.
So.
But even the collector streets we do.
But the collector streets you do, and to me, you want, it doesn't apply because you do want more than one entrance. Because that's what you're telling everybody, you want two entrances if you have over 40 homes or 40 units. So to me, you want to keep that standard, I think you take G out.
Take G out, okay. So I was asking, we delete the G.
In practice, though, a lot of these developments would end up being two separate roads. That you'd have one road and one collector and one access and another collector or arterial. Is the way in practice they would end up. It's not gonna be as common to put two on the same road. Like Plantations, we have one on Whitestown and one on Stone Church.
Correct.
I think that's gonna be the norm. What I'm arguing is that the two entrances really doesn't contradict a single access on one arterial road. Not totally contradict.
But you could have something where, you know, property across from, public refrigerated, you do a big loop.
Like a horseshoe.
A horseshoe or something, you would want that because you want two entrances. So that's why I mean, I still think you just leave it alone and just take it out.
That's fine, because on a property like that too, you know, if your property's wide enough.
Right.
What difference does it make?
Correct.
If you've got a couple thousand feet of road frontage, what difference does it make if you have two accesses? It's fine, it's good. So we're removing G.
Take G out.
We are moving at lightning speed. J. Where an existing street abuts the development, the entire right-of-way and cartway required by these regulations shall be provided. Oh, okay, I know what that is, okay. My comment there was, I only own half the street. I can only give you half the street. So I can't give you, if in other words, if the right-of-way was originally 33 feet, and you put a new development in, you're required now a 50-foot right-of-way. But I can only give you 25 feet in the half that I own. So now you're gonna have 25 and 17 and 18. And that's what your road right-of-way is gonna be, and that's, the language here should reflect that. I can't give you a whole right-of-way. Make sense? L. Yeah, so Dave, what were your comments here then? Is it just exhibit edit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, funky time. Okay, Dave, you need to make a decision. We're not gonna finish this section. So where do you wanna go to? Because this section goes on for quite a way, several more pages.
Well, I think this is a good place to end it. We've got, usually we end at 8:30, we have 5 minutes. And,
So we're ending at we finished the bottom of 44, we're gonna start at top of 45 next time.
okay, well, we got through some.
Only got 45 more.
next on the agenda is, public comments again. Mike?
I actually did, but I didn't, I was speaking enough for somebody else speaking, now. Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Brand. 524 Perry Highway. My property is, the Nest Farm property is directly between my house and Dale's house. Yeah, the last one. Now, the right of way, you're talking about the Nest Farm property. Is that his driveway? Is that what you're talking about?
Currently, the plan that they showed is that's the driveway.
Okay, I had a contract with,
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Just to ask Tom a quick question. That 50 foot is owned property by Noscom, it's not a right?
It's owned property.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify whether it was right away or
Basically
owned
where
property.
your driveway is.
Yeah. That's my driveway also.
Okay.
And I have a legal document between George Nestbaum and me, whenever we refinanced our house, we had to have it drawn up. Where I have, me and George maintain that driveway. Now, am I gonna have to pay for half of this when all this traffic is coming in and out of that driveway?
Because she has to be right away, the property.
It's on my deed that it's a 50-foot right-of-way, because my right-of-way actually goes on George's driveway, goes across Sill's house, and comes out Lion Lane. That's how the right-of-way goes. But I don't use that as my driveway, I have another driveway.
That's, so you don't.
So you're have an interest in that piece of property, and it's between you and Nussbaum. It's not between you and the new owner, and 200 other people that want to build there. So I think at that point, you have an opportunity to renegotiate. Get a legal opinion, but renegotiate might be that you don't have any more maintenance because they just let you use that public road to your property. That's what I would drive.
What was your name again?
Peggy, right?
Peggy Brandt, it would be under William Brandt. I own 3
Oh, right
acres,
here.
almost 3 acres.
Right there. Okay, I see where you're at. So are these recorded driveways?
It was on her deed.
It's
On the deed.
It's on my deed.
That's definitely a good solicitor question.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand, I don't know the properties like you guys, so.
They can, do you want to come point a little inside?
Okay, so here's you, and we're talking about the development.
This.
All this right here. Okay, now tell me again, instructions.
This right here, yeah, this is my property, behind me, this is so my driveway is supposed to come out through here, and this is my right of way. Onto which comes across Sill, which goes on the way. I don't use this driveway, but my driveway, I come out here because I use for the.
You believe this is on your deed?
Yes. Because whenever I refinance the house, the bank required us to do this paper and George had to sign the paper off, that I had to have a business that maintained that driveway.
Okay, so that's part of yours, and now you're coming in.
They're coming in on my driveway, so this isn't just George's driveway, that's my driveway.
And they have to
So she's first trying to have the maintenance, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
What chance they have, no. Hey,
And they haven't come to you or anything, they haven't made any progress. I think they will.
Well, I don't want
Oh,
this.
there's title
Yeah.
issues.
I don't want this.
There's definitely title issues.
Yeah, there is, it's not easy.
Because I have horses on the property. Because I want these kids coming up here to see my horses, carrots, and apples, or whatever they can get in, not just a liability to me. Because of this. This is the first
Similar
time
issues,
seeing
similar issues that I've had in the past like this, I've had to get every property owner in the subdivision to create this thing to sign off on to release that. So there's definitely title issues.
Yeah.
beyond here.
But if this goes on, I'm selling. I came here because this is the country. I've been here for almost 40 years. And now this is what's in my
I hear you.
backyard.
Here.
And one other question that I had about this property, this is the first I'm seeing, I was on vacation last month, when this was big tenants. What about the gas line that runs down through there, and to,
Remember, this is a concept that would not be approved. They're just throwing something like.
So fill out the first salvo, see what.
That's right. See if it sticks, see how many complaints there.
But they will come back with something else. If they don't
Yes.
do that, then they'll come back with something else. It's not going away.
Stay involved in the process though, because you definitely have an issue.
yeah, and that's, and even better than, they bought this lot. So now this is also their right of way. So the three of us.
Someone
now
has to do
are
some,
own-
someone has to do some no, you don't necessarily own it, but you have rights to it,
Yeah.
it's different.
Okay,
But someone has to do some serious title work and understand that and get into it. So definitely stay involved in this process.
Now, the people, you just said Bev or something,
Bev and Joe.
is it on there, is it on there?
It
Need also.
wasn't until they bought this lot off the door. And they bought it right after its door died. This was a separate lot that he had bought, it was landlocked, sold, except for this right. And they bought it as a buffer.
Okay, but is it on their deed now?
It is on their deed now, yes, it is, because I talked about it before, it's a chapter deed, now that you bought this extra lot.
Bet you that guy doesn't need
Because they're even considering selling.
You have always always have issues.
Oh, right.
There's title issues here. Yeah.
What's that?
There's title issues all over everything. And if that was a subdivision at some point, every member of that subdivision has an issue, even if they don't abut that piece.
Yeah, this was part of the Black Farm.
So
But I know the board
if
is
that's a subdivision with this drawn on it, every one of those owners has claim to that right away, even if they don't abut that right away. It's part of the legal subdivision, which they don't use us. So there are definitely title issues here that go beyond what we can give you advice. You need to get a good real estate attorney when it gets to that point. Yeah, it's gonna take a good real estate attorney. I've been in similar situations and they can be very helpful. Sorry.
Sorry. We're still some public comments.
okay.
We'll just go in front of the board of countries, and that one for the cranberry. And that's what this is where a mountain is up. The lake has to turn into cranberry.
Talk to
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Connie, did you have a question? You want to comment?
The slope issues, okay, not just on the property, on the terrain itself, but on these detention ponds. They're supposed to be 3-to-1. The Great Lake of Lancaster down there on Saltworks. That was, given a variance of 2-to-1. But guess what it was built at?
1.5.
Almost 1-to-1. It's almost, it's like between 1-to-1 and 1.5-to-1.
Can't even maintain it.
What's that?
They can't even maintain it.
That's a disaster.
That's been falling down since day one. Green, black stuff, oozing out of it, sliding the whole rest. No maintenance has been done on it. They can't maintain it. They don't even maintain the interior of it. Or any of it there.
Additionally, on the slopes, we had an excellent point about the 20% slope, 25% slope. Look at a development in Mars. Very expensive homes up on top of the hill going into Mars. They were built there 15 years ago. They were built on fill. They're falling apart. They're sliding off the hill.
That's all.
Because you don't build a house on sand, you build it on bedrock. When you start pushing the soil around, you end up building on sand. And these are unintended consequences of these ordinances, and these variances, and these curative amendments, where we create a situation where it looks good on paper, but 15 years down the road, the damage that we didn't see was going to happen, and we have a series of problems. So we need to be very careful. Growth, yeah. See, everybody says, "Oh, we gotta have growth, gotta have growth, gotta have growth." Well, the answer is sometimes cancer is a growth. Nobody wants cancer. So we need to control the growth, manage the growth, keep the community standards that we have as much as we possibly can. Even our new solicitor has commented twice, at least, about how nice the township is the way it is. And that's, if somebody new coming in says, "Boy, this is a great place, I like it the way it is." We like it the way it is because it is the way it is. And we like to keep it that way as much as we can.
Thank you, Tom. All right, I'm gonna vote to, we're not allowed to vote, so we're gonna adjourn the meeting, okay? Thank you for your time.